Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for some. Thank you for joining this year's Pre-PDAC conference hosted by Red Cloud Securities and Red Cloud Financial Services. I am Chad Gilfillan, Senior Vice President, Investment Banking at Red Cloud Securities. We would like to extend our thanks to Newsfile for sponsoring this session. Our first presentation is Michael Griffiths, President and CEO of Currie Rose Resources. Currie Rose is in the midst of acquiring some vanadium assets in Australia from some well-known battery metal players and looking to recapitalize the company and get out there and tell the story. Mike, Mike's joining us from, thank you very much for joining us from Perth, Australia. And Mike, you'll have 15 minutes followed by a Q&A at the end. I'll ask anybody who is watching and would like to ask questions, please type it in and do so, and we'll make sure they're answered as best we can. Great. With that, Mike, we'll turn it over to you.
That's great. Thanks, Chad. Appreciate the opportunity, and good morning and welcome to Currie Rose to the people on by. Currie Rose has got a very exciting story. It's a district scale advanced battery metal asset within a world-class vanadium hub in central Queensland. Forward-looking statement, of course. So why Currie Rose? It's an important question, and the best answer I can give you is that we've brought together two vanadium assets that are currently held by two major ASX battery metals companies, one being Liontown, which is a lithium company worth about 3.2 billion, and Chalice Mining, which is about $2.6 billion capex. Both of those are companies which I'm known well to, so it's been a great join of minds there, and they're very keen to see these assets flourish in their own light. So the key points, basically, as you may well know, vanadium is on the critical minerals list in Canada, Australia, and the US, and it's part of what people see as being one of the transitions to a low carbon economy. So there's quite a lot of interest in vanadium for that very reason. In this case, where you have a sedimentary oxide vanadium project, which is located in central Queensland, where they passionately call it the North Queensland Vanadium Hub, because there are a number of projects in that area. And some of the key points here is that we do have a historic JORC compliant inferred resource of 84 million tonnes at 0.3% vanadium pentoxide, and I'll explain a bit more about further in the presentation. We have had a positive preliminary metallurgical study in 2018, and there is significant potential for expansion. Those are very, very key parts to the process. We also have a really good management team. All of us have got lots of experience, and in the conclusion of the transaction, we'll have both Chalice and Liontown as joint major shareholders, which is very good for us from a number of perspectives. It will be 100% owned, which is also an important point. The commodity itself has been identified again on the critical list by all the major resource companies and countries around the world, and it comes with some other really good attractions. For example, it's located between Mount Isa and the Port of Townsville. And for those of you that don't know Australia or Queensland all that well, Mount Isa is a major mining centre, and Townsville Port is a major exit for all export of mineral products. The project is located right next to the town of Richmond. We're about 30 kilometres around that town. And infrastructure-wise, we couldn't be better off. There is, of course, a major railway line, a major highway, there's power, and of course, port access. And having the Mount Isa mining area to the west of us, we also are very blessed with a skilled workforce potential for our project. The area is big. We've got about 1,200 square kilometres that's on private land, and there's two sort of vanadium hub areas: the Julia Creek Belt and the Richmond Vanadium Belt. And at this time, there are no known native title claims, so we're clear there at the moment. Again, a resource of 84 million tonnes historic. We're in the process of getting that brought through into 43-101 standards. And we do have a number of advanced drill targets, which will also turn to account within a short space of time. From a regional perspective, again, we've got some advanced projects. So the Cambridge resource can be expanded, and we have the ability to do that almost instantly, because work done by Liontown was never included in the historic resource. So that's merely a process we will need to go through in the not too distant future. The Flinders River prospect, which was part of the Chalice package, has also been drilled to the extent that it can be, with maybe a couple of confirmatory drill holes, not too many. It will also be turned to resources. Runnymede prospect, a historic area drilled previously, will also have the ability to turn to account with not too distant future. Silver Hills, again, you can see it was drilled in the 1970s, early 2000s. It will, with some more work, also improve. And so we expect to have considerably more resources than we currently have over the next 12 months. What it also shows from this map, that we've got 76 kilometres of the Tulibec formation, which is the vanadium host. And I'll explain a little bit of the geology, not too much, on the next slide. And in the area, of course, as I mentioned earlier, being the vanadium hub, right next door to us, the Lilyvale resource, which is 560 million tonnes of 0.48 vanadium pentoxide. That's the other half of the deposit that we already have. And of course, there's another larger resource a little further to the north. So the Cambridge vanadium deposit is the key for us at this point in time. Preliminary metallurgical test work from 2018 has indicated that obviously it's an oxide, it's shallow, it's soft, it's friable. It is suitable for pre-concentration, which means that we can process it pretty simply. It's amenable to acid leaching, and it's also has a very low strip ratio, because the material is between the surface and 30 metres. There is, as I mentioned, potential to extend it, and on this map here you can see there are some red areas that are red dots, which are drilling that hasn't been included in the resource. And I should point out that the resource currently is made up of 35 vertical drill holes totaling 832 metres, with an average depth of 23 metres, giving an average thickness of 10 metres. It doesn't take a great deal of drilling to actually expand the resource because of the wide spacing of the drilling. So we're very fortunate to have that, unlike in the case of a gold project where you have a lot closer spaced drilling. We have an inferred resource historic of 83.7 million tonnes of vanadium pentoxide, and we also have some moly credits. So, and that'll be a credit rather than a penalty in the process. We also have some other extensions to the east, which haven't even been drilled at this point in time. So it's quite an exciting project. The advanced drilling areas, just quickly, Runnymede prospect, 13 drill holes. That will, with a bit more drilling, we can turn that into some resources. Flinders River has got 13 drill holes. Again, not a great deal of drilling required to make that into a resource. And as you can see, we've got this area here, which is a strong radiometric anomaly, which is a bit of a telltale for us in the Tulibec formation. So The near-term catalysts for us are that we expect to complete our fundraising and close the project acquisition to 100%. We'll convert the Cambridge Vanadium resource to 43101. We will commence the first phase of metallurgical test work because we have all of the Liontown drill samples in a warehouse, and we can start that process almost straight away. And we will expand the Cambridge resource with the recently drilled areas, and we will also initiate some drilling at Flinders River and Runnymede. So I guess one of the main things to understand here is this is not about lots of drilling. It's about targeting what we've got, increasing the resource we've got without a great deal of drill work. It's really the key for us is making sure that our metallurgical test work is like our neighbour, which there's no reason why it won't be. And then there are some other advantages for us, which I'll explain a little bit further in the presentation. So on the longer term, further delineate and expand the project resource. We will also develop the processing pathway. I've got some people lined up to do all of these things already. And as soon as the transactions close, we'll march down that path. We expect to complete a preliminary economic assessment in the next 12 to 18 months. And then we look to launch a definitive feasibility study as well, based on having some good geology and some relatively simple metallurgical work done. Not sure how much you know about the vanadium markets, but clearly they're like all the other battery markets at the moment. They're sort of booming along. Importantly, vanadium has historically been used for the steel alloys, and it will continue to be. But batteries are coming in, and as you can see on the list here, there are a number of really good reasons why it's probably one of the better batteries. But clearly, it can be expanded and easily integrated with other low carbon energies such as wind, wave, and solar power. So it actually fits in well on a larger scale than the lithium market. So we're really in a different league. And of course, there are new markets expanding, particularly when we start looking at the redox flow batteries, because they're going to be a bit of a game changer. On the supply and demand, according to Roskill, we're expecting to have an increase in demand this year. The market is expected to grow from 1.6 billion in 21 to 2.36 billion in 25. So there's quite a good growth there. There are new applications and scalability advantages with the redox flow batteries. So we can see that there's going to be a lot of activity in that space. And finally, the demand should be up for both alloys and for the battery world, but particularly alloys with respect to use in electric vehicles to reduce energy needs and weight, which will make them more efficient. So that's also a key indicator for us. Government support. Well, we've got another good chip here. The government in Queensland is building a $10 million facility to process vanadium domestically, of which we will hope to be part of that, and hence why I'm keen to get our process going as fast as possible. And that's situated in Townsville, and that's our port of exit. So we're looking to make ourselves known well to the government and march down that path as quickly as we can to be part of that thing. Our team, well, I'm a geo. We've got a couple of guys that are in the financial side. Everybody's got lots of years of experience in the mining industry, and we've all done feasibility studies and brought things into account in previous lives. So we don't have any issues there. So I think there's this slide here gives you a bit of a précis of the capital structure. Well, We currently have about 100 million shares on issue, fully diluted 132. I personally have about 5% of the company fully diluted, and management has about 10% fully diluted. So we're all pretty invested in what we're trying to do there. There's a summary of the transaction there. And finally, the investment highlights. I think the main things to know here is we've got a lot of things nailed down. We're close to infrastructure. We've got a historical data, which is easy to use. We've got significant vanadium. We've got a historic deposit, which will turn to account. We've got really good metallurgical test work to start with, and we've got a momentum build in the demand and the tightening of supply. So in that location, plus it's soft, it's amenable to concentration, and it's also leachable. So there are lots of advantages. There are lots of really good points that come with this project, and we're looking to progress as fast as we can within the bounds of reality. I think that might be it, Chad.
Great, Mike. That's a great overview. Thank you very much. A few questions on vanadium price. It's certainly rallied quite strongly year to date. So any comments on that would be great. But also vanadium market's a fairly small market relative to other battery metals such as copper and others. Could you talk about kind of the landscape and how a marginal project such as this plays an important role in meeting that supply demand gap?
Yeah. Okay. So I think one of the things that sets this apart from a lot of the other vanadium stories is that many of them are based on an iron vanadium type approach. They come with a higher grade vanadium, but they come with a higher processing cost. So in this case, really we've got a low strip ratio. We're going to have we can build tons very easily. We can turn our 0.3, 0.4% vanadium pentoxide into 1 to 1.5% as a concentrate, which is market that fits in within the market. And there are things that we can do with this deposit to increase the grade as well by potentially high grading sections as well, because we've got so much to choose from. And I think that's what's one of the key things. The government's going to give us a lot of assistance here. They want to be a big vanadium hub, and I think that's the other one which will help this project develop maybe ahead of some of the others and quite quickly. And the demand, yeah, look, the demand. I think there's a couple of things here. COVID has caused a whole bunch of disruptions in the marketplace, and I think there's going to be little time to settle all that down. I think there's going to be a huge period of construction in the world for the next few years, which will also touch onto the demand, and with all of the need to convert and reduce our carbon. I think anywhere where metals can help, reducing the weight of EVs, providing redox flow batteries in small communities to reduce the amount of infrastructure that's required for copper wires and everything out into the countryside. All of those things mean that vanadium will be one of the building metals coming forward, and will take a greater place as people realize that there's no competition between vanadium and lithium. Lithium has its market, and vanadium has its market. So I think that's where there'll be a distinction between what the two types of batteries can deliver.
And just the last question, because I think it's important to highlight. Obviously, Chalice and Liontown have had their own successes with other projects, but they kind of had these projects in the background and had interest in them. What do each of those companies own on a pro forma basis of Currie Rose going forward?
Yeah, basically they'll be about 13% each, right. And so we've made sure, and they didn't want to be in takeover mode, of course. but certainly they're keen to put their weight behind the wheel, if you like. I know the former chairman of Chalice and the chairman of Liontown, Tim Goiter, very well, and certainly he's said to me that he's really keen to see these develop as properly and as quickly as they can, and he's a very strong believer and a reasonable shareholder of Currie Rose as well.
That's great. Thanks, Mike, for your time. And I think for next presentations, we have Lotus Resources on Stream 1 and Arena Minerals on Stream 2. Thanks again for your time, and thanks, Mike, for taking some time out of your evening.
Not a problem.